Let's get straight to Eli Stokols, a White House correspondent for Politico. All right, Eli, so President Trump met with conservatives on Wednesday. It's a question I was just asking Margaret Brennan. He reportedly suggested if the new plan doesn't pass, they can let Obamacare fail and then blame the Democrats. If he's in full sales mode, maybe that's not the right line of approach.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Republicans, Paul Ryan is sort of saying something similar, which is we're doing the country a favor by fixing this. Never mind all the millions of people who are going to lose their insurance if this bill goes forward. They're saying this is a problem, Obamacare is in a death spiral, and we're stepping in to save the day. Trump is taking that one step further, saying, if this doesn't pass, forget it. You're on your own and see what happens with Obamacare. Polls show the country would actually prefer that right now. It is sort of Trump's, it sounds like Trump that he would say something like that. I think what's maybe adding to a lot of the confusion on this is that there are just so many mixed signals coming from the White House and from Capitol Hill on whose bill this is, on where the bill is at. You have you have Breitbart and conservative media trashing the bill, saying they're going to war with what they're calling Ryan Care. At the White House, they say they completely endorse the bill, but hey, please don't call it Trump Care. We don't want our name on it. And this is from a guy who's made a career and made millions of dollars by slapping his name on stuff that isn't his and just branding it that way. So they don't want to brand this bill as Trump Care. That's interesting. And in this meeting with the leaders of these conservative groups, Trump expressed an openness to tweaking the bill, which sort of conflicts with other things that members of his administration have said when it comes to, the bill is pretty much done. This is the bill. Get behind the bill. You don't like it. Too bad. And so there's just a lot of mixed signals about where the bill is at, whose bill it is. Trump has himself said, we're going to get to these other things in the second or third drafts of this bill. So it's a messy process, and policymaking is often messy. I just think that they've yet to really take control of the messaging, that's for sure.
Well, they've certainly been in that full sell mode. The dinners, the pizza parties, the bowling, as Margaret Brennan just mentioned. But despite the president's efforts, this morning, one of his key allies, Senator Tom Cotton, tweeted this: House health care bill can't pass Senate without major changes. To my friends in House, pause, start over, get it right, don't get it fast. Let me play out Sean Spicer's response for you, Eli, and then we'll talk about it.
No matter where you are, especially on the conservative side, you cannot possibly believe that the current healthcare system is an effective program. It is a monstrosity. It is a government gone wrong.
So, Eli, I mean, what would it take for conservatives to get on board beyond the bowling and the pizza?
Well, they want wholesale changes to the bill. I think, they have problems with the timing of it, that some of the, rolling back the Medicaid expansion happens too late for a lot of them. That was one of the things that they talked about at the White House. The leaders of groups like Heritage and AFP talked about with the president last night. But I think it's really significant that Tom Cotton is out there messaging this, because this is a Republican senator that the White House has, in very short time, come to really rely on and trust. Someone who's has a lot of juice in the West Wing, someone who basically helped them select Henry McMaster to be the new national security advisor. This is a person they really trust, especially on foreign policy, who's worked closely with them, who stood up for this administration. And here you have him stepping out and sort of trying to speak to the White House, saying, look, I don't know what people are telling you about this bill's chances. Who knows how strong the opposition is from the Freedom Caucus in the House. But in the Senate, where Republicans have only 2 votes to lose, where we know already that Rand Paul is not getting on board with this bill, Tom Cotton is basically giving some tough medicine to this White House. And it'll be interesting to see if they listen to it. They have listened to him on other matters in the past.
All right, Eli, let's move on to some other news here. President Trump is putting forth John Huntsman, the former ambassador to China, to be U.S. ambassador to Russia. When he was ambassador to China, and even as he contemplated his presidential run, then candidate Trump or private citizen Trump had some things to say about John Huntsman on Twitter. Now he's nominating him to be the ambassador to Russia. What do you think of that pick?
Well, it's confounding, just like everything else. I mean, a lot of people are praising this pick because they look at Huntsman and they see someone who's kind of, whose position, he's not a Russia expert by any stretch. He was made more sense as ambassador to China, given that he'd been ambassador to Singapore before that he spoke Mandarin. That seemed to make a little more sense. The Russia portfolio is, less familiar to Huntsman. Some people look at this and say, okay, you have a person here who may temper the White House administration, just give Russia everything at once, but who, will be willing to work with them, who's kind of a squishy moderate in some sense. And so not an ideologue. Some people look at this and say, okay, maybe this works. It's not really giving anything away or showing the White House's hand and how they're going to approach Russia by naming, vanilla John Huntsman to be ambassador. But it is confounding when you consider that, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, has been and continues to be frustrated by an inability to get his people appointed to key positions, continues to have fights with the White House over this stuff, and that he was rebuffed when he brought in Elliott Abrams, an old neocon, a pretty hawkish guy, to be his deputy Secretary of State, and Trump nixed it because he, learned that Abrams had been pretty critical of him during the campaign. Huntsman was just as critical of Donald Trump. I mean, remember, Huntsman has political aspirations potentially in Utah, his home state, which is a very conservative, socially conservative state. They were all appalled when that Access Hollywood video came out back in October. Huntsman said that at that time, Trump should step aside and let Mike Pence become the Republican nominee. So he was incredibly critical of Trump late in this campaign. What we're told is that somehow Huntsman was able to maintain a personal relationship with Trump, to patch things up and to say, well, you understand why I criticized you, but I want to work with you. His name was tossed around a lot in December and January during the transition as people were considering how to fill out different foreign policy positions. So given all of that, I guess it's not that surprising, but you just never know with this administration when they're going to, turn the other cheek and when they're not.
Yeah, and we just put up a tweet for our viewers there from back in 2012 when Donald Trump said that John Huntsman wanted to meet with him and that he said no. He gave our country away to China. He also called Huntsman lightweight and weak, and that China did a number on us during his tenure as ambassador. So we'll have to see how that all shakes out. Finally, I just want to ask you, Eli, yesterday the White House said that there's no reason to believe that the president is a subject of investigation. He was asked by our Margaret Brennan about that. Was Sean Spicer and thus the president aware that there may be a counterintelligence investigation of him? There was some hemming and hawing. A note was passed. He sort of tried to give a definitive answer. Senators Graham and Senators Whitehouse are now promising to investigate. Is this going away anytime soon?
No, it's not going away. You have a daily drip, drip, drip of new information coming out that pertains to the investigation of the Trump campaign and Russia. And while it may be true that Trump himself, that the FBI, the intelligence community, has found nothing yet to show that Trump himself was in contact with Putin or with Russian officials, there have been so many reported contacts between Trump campaign officials and their ties with Russian officials and pro-Russian people in that region. Given that Russia meddled in this election on Trump's behalf, given all the things that we've seen in terms of Trump's repeated willful blindness towards Vladimir Putin and what he's doing, his tendency to continue to make excuses for Vladimir Putin, to defend Russia, even when he's trashing American allies like Australia or Mexico. He's always been soft on Putin. And so I think just given everything, given Russia's involvement and agenda in the last election, and given what we already know from the intelligence community, and given the administration's demonstrated eagerness to sweep this under the rug and to move on, the sort of nothing to see here approach to this, it sure looks like there is something to hide. They want to sort of nip this in the bud, and it's clearly not going to happen. Just sort of adds to the sense of intrigue around all this and kind of guarantees that this is going to keep going, possibly towards a special prosecutor, but that this story, no matter what the White House tries to do, is not going away.
All right, Eli Stokols from Politico's newsroom. Eli, as always, we thank you.
Thanks, Vlad.